I'm trying to find a golf club for Larry Bobka. Welcome back to that Range Lifer channel, sometimes about golf. My name is Bill Bush from driverangeheroes.com, at Range Heroes, on all of your favorite social media platforms. All right, the story on this is I went out last night as I'm recording this, thrifting and picking up dinner with the family, and always in the hunt for some interesting golf clubs, you know, like I always do. And I stumbled upon a couple, I'm gonna call them weird drivers, but really important pieces in terms of golf club history, in the original Wilson the Whale drivers. Okay, these were the first oversized driver in the market, wood, metal, or otherwise. And you know, I was a little cloudy on the details, but I've always wanted I've always wanted an original Whale. Never seen one in person, and the place we stopped, we went to Savers. They had two of them, and I said, "Wow, these are cool." I was overpaying for it a little bit, but it was worth it to get one in the collection. So I picked one of them and went on my merry way. But knowing the history about these a little bit, did some Googling, I noticed mine looked a little different, and I reached out to the man himself, Larry Bobka, who, if you don't know about Larry Bobka, I suggest doing a little Googling and research. But this guy is a very big deal in, I'd say, 80s, 90s golf. And even to this day, it still is, in early 2000s especially. But we're talking starting the UST Mamiya, the golf shaft company, designing Tiger Woods Titleist irons based off of some classic Mizuno combo sets he was using. Really, really big stuff. But one of his big things was the original Wilson Whale driver, and he was the inventor, the designer of it. And so I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, this driver I got, what can you tell me about it?" And he's like, "Hey, those that you saw are actually ones that would have been essentially tour issue, tour only. We did some different things than the retail version for the guys on tour, and different inserts, different lofts, weights, all sorts of things. And that's what it looks like." And so I'm like, "Oh, that's neat." And he said, "There is a second one. Where'd you find it? How much did you pay for it?" And I said, you know, I told him, and he goes, "Well, if you happen to go back for the second one, I'd be interested in it." And I'm going to tell you this: golf gear nerd like me, golf history nerd like me, has the opportunity to help Larry Bobka of all people out. We're going to head back out and go find that second driver for Larry Bobka. All right, I'm back. Good news, mission accomplished. We got it. So let me show you the two Whale drivers I found, what's interesting about them, and why I thought they were cool. The store still had the second Wilson Whale driver. So before I ship this one off to Larry Bobka, let's talk about the backstory a little bit. Because you know what? There's not a ton out there about these, except from a blog post from Louisville Golf. And the reason they know so much about it, they actually made these for Wilson back in the 80s. And you know, the story is fairly interesting. So at the time, there weren't many large oversized heads, and the tour players weren't demanding them. They've been hitting persimmon drivers, metal ones were starting to come out of a certain size for a long time, and people were happy with that. But you know, I think people were thinking, hey, there's an opportunity here to try something a little different. And the Whale was made, I think, more so for, as they say, the recreational golfer in mind, not the tour player. And Wilson wasn't even considering this one of their tour options, really. And there's an interesting story on Louisville Golf's blog post about how they had what they called the cage at Wilson, and their pro players would come, look at all their tour grade, professional level irons and woods and whatnot to pick out what they're going to play. And you know, they would get, some players would get real picky about it, and then they'd take something and personalize it to their specs. There's a story about how that was very difficult when Nick Faldo came over and ultimately
the clubs they made for him ended up all just being the Mizuno irons he was already playing, but Wilson materials and ground down to that, so they were barely a Wilson iron. But Payne Stewart shows up, and the story goes was really really easy about what he wanted to see, what he would play with. He's like, "Yep, these look good enough for me. Cut them and grip them, and let's get them out there." And he wanted to play this guy. He wanted to play the whale, okay? And nobody else was doing it. People were like, "Are you sure? That's crazy." I'm sure Larry did not think it was crazy. He knew it was a good driver. That's why he made it. But no one was playing something this big, and it's 250 cc's. So now that's tiny compared to other drivers out there. But when you put this compared to the drivers that were being played back in those days, it was massive. Thus the name, the Whale. And a little local Chicago legend that goes with this. Apparently, the sales guys who kind of wanted to do something like this, the Whale was a bar they would frequent, and they said, "Hey, let's even go so far as to steal the logo and name from the bar and stamp it on the bottom of the club." So that's allegedly where that came from, according to this Louisville Golf blog post I read. So this driver comes out in 1987, and in 1989, Payne Stewart actually wins the PGA Championship playing it. So that catches a lot of attention, and the likes of Louisville Golf are going, "Hey, you know what? We're going to be busy and have to start making more of these." So that obviously did a lot to make the driver popular. What's unique, I think I touched on this already, but you get the regular version of it. They have a different, they don't have this pin, this firing pin as they call them, in the middle of the insert here. It's a different sort of like Wilson badge looking thing. And then you have the 9 degree and tour stamp on here. So for the pro players, they would make different lofts. I think slightly different shapes. If you look at the two that I have here, maybe this is me not knowing enough about laminate construction, and you can see that in the face. This is laminated, not a single block persimmon. This one with the red insert and the black insert one I have sit a little different, where I feel like this red one was a little more closed and a little fuller shape. The black insert sits a little more open and has I feel like a more streamlined, kind of narrower shape. I don't know if that's a thing or my eyes, whatever. I got a side by side picture. Maybe I can jump in here. You can or drop in here. Maybe you can see it as well. I don't know. But so I don't know how much of it was they were making different shapes of these and shipping them into the tour stock and going, all right, let these guys pick little differences that look and set up better to their eyes. I reached out to Larry and he told me that they wouldn't have necessarily shaped these at the shop to look different for pro players and whatnot. They basically just had an inventory and they could pick from that. So maybe that's all it was. These were just two tour stocks that someone had laying around, and they just look different, have different color inserts, and there you have it. So one of the big advantages Wilson had with this, well, Wilson and Louisville had with this construction at the time, is this idea of having a larger size driver. You were getting before we're getting into the metals, you might remember like the Cobra Ultra Mid. It's sort of like a plasticky material, almost like a nylon. I think it's called something like Loramid, or at least that was one they used. I believe it is Loramid though, and that's what the Cobra Ultra Mid was made out of. Maybe Ultra Mid, Loramid. That's why they call it that. I don't know. But the problem is, to make a driver head that size out of that material would be significantly heavier than thin veneer sheets of maple pressed together. So the advantage with the Whale being made out of maple is it could be bigger and give a larger head size behind the ball. And obviously that larger head size trended well, because look at the 460cc drivers we play today. Of course, soon thereafter, you would have the Big Bertha from Callaway, made out of metal, revolutionizing the driver game and sort of leaving this stuff in the dust. But this thing, the Whale, was innovative and was a really interesting club and still beloved by many as a classic, maybe even a little bit of a cult classic. I know I've been looking for them forever, so I was excited to find not one of them, but two of them. And I would have been happy to have two in my collection, but I feel like you can help out Larry Bobka with a classic like this, and be able to say that as a golf collector and curator. You got to do it. It's also kind of exciting to have original Wilson Fire Stick driver shafts in them, made by Aldilla. These these were a really big deal back in the day, and I believe John Daly really put them on the map. Had some good success with them, so it's fun to find a cool original whale that looks like it hasn't hit a ball and has a fire stick in it. I was excited about that. All right, so there you have it. A little bit of the backstory on the Wilson whale. If you've hit one, you have any thoughts on them, leave a comment below. Let me know. Don't forget to follow me at Range Heroes, and I'm sure I'll get. I don't think I'm gonna hit mine. Like I said, I'm sending one to Larry. I'm not. I don't think I'm gonna hit one, so I don't know if you're gonna see any video of that. But I'll probably write something about it and share my thoughts on the whale, maybe something similar to this video. I don't know. So follow me at Range Heroes and see if I do. And of course, don't forget to go down below, hit the bell so you get notified when we post videos here on the channel. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. All those things, really appreciate it. And don't forget, shout out True Linkswear. I'm loving this vacay hoodie so much. They're lightweight summer hoodie. It's the best. I need to get more of them. I'll wear them every day. Freezing in the air conditioning in my basement working, okay? TrueLinksway.com. Use the code DRH15 for 15% off your entire order. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. See you next time.